to boost investment in various sectors, including system memory chips, which are used for driverless cars, and AI. On rising global oil prices following the US announcement to end exemptions on Iranian oil sanctions, he said the government will help local petrochemical companies diversify oil imports. He added that it's critical the $5.9 billion extra budget bill at the National Assembly be passed as quickly as possible to help boost economic growth. President Moon Jae-in will hold a summit today in Seoul with Chile's Prime Minister Sebastián Piñera. The two leaders are expected to discuss a wide range of issues, including the amendment of a free trade deal signed all the way back in 2004, as well as political issues in their respective regions. Their summit talks will be followed by a dinner banquet hosted by the Blue House later tonight. This is Mr. Piñera's second visit to Seoul after his first in 2012 and the first by a Latin American leader under the Moon administration. Now, US President Donald Trump's top national security aide says Washington would prefer to solve the North Korean nuclear issue one-on-one rather than engage in multilateral talks that have come up short in the past. John Bolton also said a third meeting between the two leaders is on the table, adding that President Trump feels pretty strongly about holding another summit with Kim Jong-un. Kim Hyo-sun has this report.
U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton has made it clear that multi-party talks with North Korea are not the preferred method the Trump administration is pursuing to achieve the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Speaking on Fox News Sunday, Bolton said the six-party talks have failed in the past, explaining the North's leader has, at least up to now, wanted one-on-one contact with the U.S. Bolton's remarks are in reference to the revival of the past six-party talks approach, as suggested by Russian President Vladimir Putin after he met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un last week. However, the top U.S. security advisor stressed this does not mean Washington will not consult with other countries. He highlighted that President Trump continues to stay in close contact with his Japanese, Russian, Chinese, and South Korean counterparts. He also went on to explain that Trump is prepared to hold a third North Korea-U.S. summit at the right time. Speaking about the Kim-Putin summit, Bolton said the Russian leader isn't overly interested in bilateral trade with Pyongyang, but is focused on pursuing the so-called three mega projects. The projects refer to the connection of the Trans-Siberian Railway, Trans-Korean Railway, and the construction of a gas pipeline from Russia to South Korea via the north. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has emphasized that Russia is acting in its home region when building relations with neighboring North Korea. Commenting on last week's Russia-North Korea summit, President Putin's press secretary highlighted that Russia shares a border with the North. He also said when Washington deals with Pyongyang, it's acting in Russia's region. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
Now, following on from that report, during the same interview with Fox News Sunday, US National Security Advisor John Bolton insisted no money was paid to North Korea in relation to the release of Otto Warmbier. Asked whether Washington had signed an agreement to pay the regime for Warmbier's medical care, Bolton said that's what he was told, but he stressed the money was never sent. President Trump also tweeted last Friday that no money was paid. The Washington Post reported last week that the U.S. signed a $2 million medical bill that Pyongyang had presented it. Otto Warmbier was arrested by the regime and died just a matter of days after he returned home in a coma in 2017. Iran's foreign minister says he plans to visit North Korea, but has stopped short of saying when. Mohammad Javad Zarif also said his country may consider pulling out of an international treaty designed to prevent the spread of nuclear arms. Kan Hyung-woo reports.
Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif says Iran could break away from the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons amid tightening U.S. sanctions and the Trump administration's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal. In an interview with Iran's state-run news agency, Zarif said Iran has a number of options, which include a withdrawal from the nuclear deal, meaning that Iran could deny inspections from the International Atomic Energy Agency and restart its nuclear programs to develop weapons. Referring to Washington's announcement earlier this month on banning countries from importing Iranian oil, Iran's top diplomat expressed his frustration.
This is coercion, pure and simple. People are not happy. China is not happy, Turkey is not happy, Russia is not happy, France is not happy, US allies are not happy that this is happening. And they say that they will find ways of resisting it. How they will do it, it's up to them.
Zarif also said he's planning to visit North Korea, adding the date of the trip is set and it will be announced soon without elaborating. North Korea's Foreign Minister Lee Yong-ho visited Iran last August and met with Zarif and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. Kang-young, Arirang News.
Now, US President Donald Trump has hinted at demanding South Korea pay more for the cost of stationing American troops here on the Korean Peninsula. Speaking at a rally in Wisconsin on Saturday local time, President Trump said the US spends $5 billion to defend a wealthy country, and that nation only pays $500 million to America. Although President Trump did not specify the country, he called the defense cost sharing with the unidentified nation a one-sided, horrible deal. After Seoul and Washington signed a one-year deal for the stationing of US troops on the peninsula in February, President Trump said he made Seoul pay $500 million more. However, under the actual deal, South Korea agreed to pay $925 million, an increase of $70 million from the year before. Now, multinational maritime drills are being held in waters near Korea's southern port city of Busan this week by participating nations of the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus. The South Korean Navy says 16 warships and 6 aircraft from a dozen countries are taking part in the two-part exercise. South Korea has sent a guided missile destroyer, a guided missile frigate, amphibious landing ship, and 3 helicopters for part 1 of the exercise, which does start today. The second part of the drills kick off in waters near Singapore on May 9th, to which South Korea will send 1 destroyer. Now, hepatitis A has been spreading fast across South Korea. Classified as a Group 1 infectious disease here in South Korea, hepatitis A spreads through food and water. For more on the sharp uptick in cases and what can possibly be done to stop the spread, Imcheonggak reports.
South Korea's central Gyeonggi-do province has seen the most hepatitis A patients so far this year, with over 1,060 cases, followed by Daejeon with 615. The two regions account for over 46% of the total 3,597 cases the nation has seen in 2019. However, the number of patients continues to increase. In Gyeonggi-do province, nearly 800 cases have been confirmed in the past 2 months alone, while Daejeon has seen nearly 400 confirmed cases. After those areas, Seoul, the Chungcheong-do provinces, and Incheon have seen the most cases. If the trend continues for the rest of the year, the number of hepatitis A patients will exceed 4,400, which was the previous record seen in 2017. Hepatitis A causes high fever, abdominal pain, vomiting, and diarrhea. Health authorities have been conducting epidemiological studies, but have not yet found the exact cause of the infection. While the disease is spread through food or water, it's hard to figure out what the patients ate, since the virus has an incubation period that lasts between 14 to 50 days. Surprisingly, those in their 30s and 40s made up 70% of those affected.
Young people are so focused on being hygienic that they're often exposed to bacteria in the absence of antibodies. This happens a lot during spring.
It's highly advised that those under 20 be vaccinated against hepatitis A. However, health authorities say those without an antibody, regardless of age, should get a shot as soon as possible. Imcheonggak, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea is establishing a presidential committee on national climate as part of efforts to tackle fine dust pollution. The committee is expected to provide solutions for the government to deal with fine dust, which is a real problem here in South Korea. It will also look to resolve the issue by cooperating with other Asian countries suffering from the same problem. Former UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon will head up this committee. The committee will be up and running straight after the launching ceremony, which takes place this morning right here in Seoul. Now, South Korea's pre-market trading time is being shortened by 30 minutes from today. Korea Exchange will also shorten pre-market trading at the closing price of the previous day by 50 minutes. The bourse operator says off-hour block trading, which aims to cut price fluctuations due to block deals, will now take place between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. The revision will affect the benchmark Kospi as well as the tech-heavy Kosdaq. The change is aimed at reducing the possibility of unfair trading. Shifting gears now, this year marks the 100th anniversary of the March 1st independence movement and the establishment of the Korean Provisional Government in the year 1919. To commemorate that anniversary, some historically meaningful places are being restored. One such place is the home of a renowned independence activist. Imcheonggak reports.
The traditional hanok houses of Imcheonggak in Andong, Gyeongsang-buk-do province were once the home of independence activist Lee Sang-ryung. Lee served as the first premier of the Korean Provisional Government and was one of the founders of Sinheung Military School, or the Military School of the New Rising, which raised an army of independence fighters. Built in 1519, Imcheonggak served as a cradle of Korea's independence movement during the Japanese occupation and is designated as a National Cultural Heritage Site.
He established the military school of the New Rising and raised some 3,500 independence fighters. 11 people from his family have been distinguished as independence activists.
Imcheonggak used to have 99 rooms, but now only about half remain. Many of the rooms were destroyed when Japan built a railway through part of the property. After some 70 years, the government has decided to restore Imcheonggak. The railways will be removed and some of the rooms will be restored.
Once the railroad is relocated and restoration is done, it will become a meaningful and educational place to teach patriotism.
The government will spend about $25 million for the restoration, which will be completed by 2025. 이민선, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, Spain held its third general election in 4 years on Sunday. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Hong Yu. So, we hear the results are out now, so please fill us in.
Right, Mark. Sunday's election resulted in a victory for the Socialist PSOE party with 123 seats out of the total 350. The mainstream Conservative People's Party had a terrible night with their seats dwindling from 137 to 66. The center-right Ciudadanos Party has 57 seats. The left-wing Unidas Podemos has 35 seats, and the new far-right party Vox won 24 seats. Even with the support of the left-wing Podemos party, the PSOE will need the help of pro-Catalan independence parties to form a government, as the two left-leaning parties are short of the necessary 176 for majority. Voter turnout was at its highest since 2008, with 75.79%, even though it was the third election in 4 years. The PSOE's leader Pedro Sanchez had called this election after his government's fiscal plan was refused by right-wing parties and separatist Catalan parties in February. Back then, Sanchez's government was criticized for not passively approaching the issue of Catalan independence and for being too beholden to the parties that helped him clinch power. The highly polarized campaign for the 2019 general election election was dominated by issues including national identity, gender equality, and the future of Catalonia. Spain is the only country in Western Europe that has never been governed by a coalition government. Still shaken after the Easter Sunday attack in Sri Lanka, the country is banning face coverings like the burqa, and Catholics avoided church on Sunday amid fears over new attacks. The closing of all of Sri Lanka's Catholic churches came after local officials and the U.S. Embassy in Colombo warned that more militants remained on the loose with explosives a week after the bombings claimed by the Islamic State group. The emergency law that bans all kinds of face coverings that may conceal people's identity will take effect in Sri Lanka on Monday. Officials say people's faces should be fully visible so they could be identified. With the opening of the world's largest international horticultural exhibition in Beijing on Sunday, Chinese President Xi Jinping expressed hope that green development will spread to every corner of the world. The Chinese leader placed emphasis on global environmental issues such as climate change, marine pollution, and biological protection in his welcome speech. Observers say that with the latest expo, China has changed from a participant in global green development to a contributor.
Now it's that time in the newscast for our Life and Info segment where we focus on information useful for your everyday life. Today we're going to mostly focus on economic issues, and drivers are feeling it in their pockets here in South Korea as gasoline prices in the country have now risen for the 10th week in a row, hitting a near 5-month high. According to the Korean National Oil Corporation, fuel prices nationwide averaged around $1.24 per litre in the fourth week of April. That's the highest since the second week of December. Gas prices are expected to soar even more in May, with Washington's decision to end waivers on sanctions on Iranian oil imports. To ease the burden, the Korean government said it will extend its tax cut on fuel products until the end of August. And oil prices aren't the only thing soaring at the moment. Pork prices in South Korea jumped nearly 17% this month amid the outbreak of the African swine fever in China. According to the Korea Agro Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation, the retail price of pork stood at almost $4 a kilogram on average in April, a whopping 36% increase from February's less than $3. The price of pork belly meat, the most popular cut in Korea, also rose 10% this month to nearly $16 a kilogram. Market watchers also say the pork prices may continue to rise due to a shortage of imported pork meat affected by the outbreak of the viral disease among pigs. Seoul City is looking to improve its zero-pay mobile payment system by providing additional payment options and discounts starting from May. According to the Seoul Metropolitan Government, consumers will now be able to make payments using their own QR codes on their smartphones rather than having to scan the zero-pay QR code provided by the vendor. Seoul City is also working to provide discounts to users who choose to use Zero Pay at public facilities like parks along the Han River, Seoul Grand Park, the World Cup Stadium and public parking lots. Small businesses can benefit from a 0% commission rate, and consumers are offered 40% tax deductions when they use Zero Pay. Now we're going to introduce you to the longest walking trail here in South Korea, which links the entire East Sea coast from Busan to Gangwon-do province. This trail includes walks along beaches, through forests, and even through some rather remote villages as well. Park Se-young with more.
The Hepatitis Trail is the longest walking trail in Korea, stretching 770 kilometers from the southern port city of Busan to the demilitarized zone in Gangwon-do province. The name implies a trail where people can appreciate the rising sun over the deep blue sea. The trail is composed of 10 sections, each of which is made up of 3 to 6 courses. From Ulsan's Ganjago Cape, which boasts the earliest sunrise on the South Korean mainland, to Taewagan Grand Park, home to flowers, trees, and migratory birds, walkers on the Hepparang Trail can enjoy scenic coastlines, forests, and villages.
I came with my sister-in-law to get rid of my stress and enjoy the ocean breeze.
The Hepparang Trail takes visitors through the cultural landmarks of 36 cities, counties, and districts along the East Sea. It's 350 kilometers longer than the Gyeongbu Expressway, which connects Seoul and Busan. The route was carefully chosen by topography experts, travel writers, a novelist, and a historian to give hikers the most scenic and culturally significant views on the East Coast. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Good morning. Jeju and southern provinces will have a rainy start to the new week. It's been already raining on Jeju Island since last night, and rain clouds are gradually spreading up north. So Imcheonggak provinces will see showers in the afternoon, and rain is in the forecast until tonight. So carry an umbrella if you are down south. 10 to 40 millimeters are in the forecast for southern coastal regions and on Jeju Island, and of course less for upper areas, while central regions will be under mostly sunny skies today with warm daily highs. Temperatures will be right around the average for here in Seoul today, but we can expect readings to gradually go up as May is right around the corner. So let's enjoy the somewhat breezy conditions before it gets too warm. Meanwhile, daily highs in southern areas will be 3 to 6 degrees lower than yesterday, along with showers and darker clouds. And Seoul will be warmer than Sunday. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all the news and weather we have for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. Do stay tuned to us on Arirang TV. Plenty more coming up, including our next newscast at noon Korea time with our very own Lee Ji-yoon. So until then, goodbye.
Planning a self-guided tour in Korea? We'll let you peek at the most beautiful hours from dawn to night in Korea. Come to Incheon, a city whose glistening morning is precious. Gyeonggi-do will make your heart throb. Come visit romantic Gyeongnam. Come to Pyeongchang, Korea's top winter destination. Come to Puyo for a memorable experience.